Scottsdale, Tempe.
Friendship Village Tempe, a retirement community for over 30 years, offers independent living with residency options, lifelong learning classes, as well as continuing care. Information at friendshipvillageaz.com.
I'm Chef Mark Tarbell. Join me for Check Please Arizona. This week our guests have dined all over the valley at Noble Eatery in Phoenix, Barrio Queen in Scottsdale, and Cuisine Wine and Bistro in Gilbert. Don't miss Check Please Arizona tonight at 7 on Arizona PBS.
Thanks for watching Arizona PBS, a viewer-supported community service of Arizona State University.
Programs on Arizona PBS are funded in part by a gift from the estate of Winifred Gegg. For more information on how to include Arizona PBS in your estate plans, call 602-496-8888.
Coming up next on Arizona PBS, Life and World.
Hello, I'm Paula Kerger, President and CEO of PBS. I am so pleased to see the next generation of journalists emerging from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. Arizona PBS takes great pride in maintaining the highest standards of ethical journalism shared by national shows such as the PBS NewsHour, Washington Week in Review, and Frontline. From the issues facing this community to the challenges and opportunities across the country and around the globe, PBS will continue to be a leader in news and public affairs. From all of us at PBS, thank you for your support of Cronkite News.
Coming soon to Arizona PBS.
On The Woman in White.
It doesn't worry you that my wife has escaped?
Nobody's gonna believe a mad woman.
We need a doctor.
Even if we had the means, bringing a doctor here could lead the Count and Glide straight to us.
Be done with it.
I will not be done with it! Sir Percival has a secret he is desperate to hide.
I have nothing to offer you but my heart and my head.
She may be talking to the police as we speak.
You pull yourself down. You take me with you.
I'll never bargain with you.
Sunday night at 9 on Arizona PBS.
From the Cronkite Studios in downtown Phoenix, this is Cronkite News.
Mr. Mueller has been accused repeatedly and without basis in fact of conducting a witch hunt.
Senator Jeff Flake is fighting to protect Special Counsel Mueller's probe. Find out how he plans to take action coming up.
Plus, as wildfires continue to burn across the state of California, teams from Arizona are on the ground helping the fight. We speak to one of them tonight.
And the number of people diagnosed with Alzheimer's is going up, but the research for prevention and treatment isn't. We talk to experts about funding for the disease that could bankrupt the country's healthcare system tonight.
Cronkite News starts now.
Good evening and welcome to Cronkite News on Arizona PBS. I'm Samantha Lomibao.
And I'm John Cardinelli. Thank you for joining us. Retiring Arizona Senator Jeff Flake may be making his last stand against President Trump on Capitol Hill, threatening to block judicial appointments in a bid to protect the ongoing investigation into corruption in the Trump administration. Amani Stevens reports from Washington.
Last night, Arizona Senator Jeff Flake vowed to vote against any judicial nominee. But when it came time to test that vow this morning, things didn't work out quite like he planned.
We have a number of judicial nominations and bills on today's agenda, and I will take the lead on holding all of them over.
That was Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley today, saying he is delaying a vote on 15 judicial nominees, a move that didn't change Flake's position.
All I can do is say I'm not going to vote to advance anybody that is before the committee now, and I won't vote for any of these nominees on the floor until we have a vote on the Mueller probe.
The vote he's talking about would be on a bill to protect Special Counsel Robert Mueller's probe of possible Russian meddling in the 2016 election. Flake demanded that vote yesterday with Senator Chris Coons.
My colleague from Delaware, Senator Coons, and I have made a unanimous consent request to bring this to the floor, but it has been objected to already.
That resolution has been blocked by Senate leaders, but Flake and Coons said it is needed more than ever now that President Donald Trump has forced out Attorney General Jeff Sessions.
The justification given in April for not bringing it to a floor vote was that nobody was being fired. There's nothing to see here. Special Counsel Mueller was not in any danger.
That clearly is not the case now.
The case now is that Acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker is overseeing the probe, which he has criticized before. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell repeated claims yesterday that the resolution is not needed to protect the Mueller investigation.
We know how the president feels about the Mueller investigation, but he's never said he wants to shut it down. I've never heard anybody down there say they want to shut it down. I think it's in no danger, and so I don't think any legislation is necessary.
Flake conceded that his lone vote might not make a difference, and that McConnell could simply hold nominations until January, when Flake is no longer in office.
Now, theoretically, if the vice president comes and breaks a tie, if all Republicans are for and Democrats against, they would still pass. So that's not where my leverage is, but I'll use what I have.
Despite the setbacks, Flake said that he is confident a vote will be held on those judges in the coming weeks, and he has a good idea how he'll be voting. In Washington, Imani Stevens, Cronkite News.
Arizona and other border states are reporting that wait times at border crossings may increase with the advance of Central American migrants and bolstered security at ports of entry. Hundreds of migrants who've reached the U.S.-Mexico border in Tijuana say they'll wait for the others to arrive before making their move. On the other side are U.S. Border Patrol agents carrying machine guns and camouflage gear with San Diego skyline in the distance.
The city of Eloy ended its role in an unusual contract that allowed ICE to run the South Texas Family Residential Center, the largest detention center in the U.S. Reporter Micah Bledsoe explains what happened and shares one detainee's story.
In 2014, there was a surge of families crossing the southwest border. The city of Eloy and Immigration Customs Enforcement amended an existing contract that allowed ICE to establish the South Texas Family Residential Center. The Department of Homeland Security reported ICE improperly modified this existing agreement with Eloy to establish the Texas Detention Center. The report gave recommendations and stated ICE made Eloy an unnecessary middleman. At the end of September, the city of Eloy canceled that part of the contract at ICE's request. In a statement, ICE spokesperson Paige D. Hughes explained that portion of the agreement with Eloy was ended and a new agreement negotiated with Dilley, Texas.
CoreCivic is a good corporate citizen in the community. We work well with them on a number of projects, and ICE felt it was in the best interest of us ending the contracts.
CoreCivic, formerly known as CCA, owns and manages private prisons, including the detention centers in Eloy and Dilley, Texas. While complaints against the operation of the facility didn't factor into ICE's decision to amend the agreement, according to the Government Accountability Office, in 2013, immigration prisons and jails failed to report 40% of sexual abuse allegations to ICE headquarters. Greta Soto Moreno, a transgender former Eloy detainee, says she was abused while detained at the Eloy Detention Center in 2013 after fleeing Mexico.
After my 300, 400, and 500 days, I was no idea what's going on. What should I do? I was tempted to cut off my hair. I was tempted to leave my facial hair. I was tempted to kill myself several times.
Soto Moreno says she was detained for 900 days. While detained, she says she was sexually abused by one of the detention officers, and when she reported it, she was not believed.
They say, no, this is our best officer here in this facility. Can you imagine the best officer being the best one from being accused to touch people improperly? How the rest could be?
We reached out to CoreCivic for a response. Here's part of the statement from Amanda Gilchrist, the Director of Public Affairs. We're committed, as we have been for 3 decades, to creating a safe environment for the individuals ICE entrusts to our care and to following all federal guidelines on the appropriate accommodation of transgender detainees. Our ICE contracted facilities are contractually required and held accountable to federal performance-based national detention standards, which include guidelines for the safe and appropriate accommodation of transgender detainees. To ensure compliance and accountability, ICE maintains full-time, on-site staff who monitor conditions and contractual performance. After multiple denied petitions to be removed from the detention center in Eloy, Soto Moreno says she tried to kill herself.
The reason that I've been removed from Arizona is because I cut off my testicles.
Soto Moreno was moved to the Santa Ana City Jail in California, but she believes the city of Eloy has a responsibility in making sure conditions are not overlooked. City manager Harvey Kraus says the city does not receive reports on the center's operation.
They release of any liability or any operational responsibilities of either the Eloy Detention Center or the Dilley facility.
Gilchrist's statement goes on to say, "We are proud of the quality of care we provide and will continue our long-standing commitment to ensure the safety and dignity of every individual in our facilities." Reporting in Eloy, Micah Bledsoe, Cronkite News.
CoreCivic also says all detention officers are required to complete more than 100 hours of training, which includes specific emphasis on a zero-tolerance policy regarding sexual abuse and harassment.
It's been 1 week since the Camp and Woolsey fires began burning through parts of California, and as firefighters work to control the fires, many people remain missing. The death toll is now 56, and 130 people are still unaccounted for. The Camp Fire has destroyed nearly 9,000 homes, and at least 52,000 people are still evacuated. Cronkite News reporter Emily Forres in Los Angeles met up with the captain of the Scottsdale Fire Department to find out what his crew is doing to help contain the Woolsey fire.
Captain Al DiBenedetto was in this neighborhood near Thousand Oaks last night. Residents are back in their homes here as DiBenedetto and his crew make sure there's no more threat of fire. So the fire was all over there? Okay.
Yeah, the fire came through this whole area. It hit here, it came down, it bumped, and then you see it did cause the spotting, but also it checked up on this area here where there was no vegetation. But all these hills around here are burned. It's real patchy.
Most of these homes came away from the Woolsey fire with minor damage.
We are their resource to use right now wherever they need us to give them a hand within the state of California.
DiBenedetto has been fighting fires for nearly 40 years. He and his team of 3 other Scottsdale firefighters have been in California since Saturday.
All the Arizona units are working as what we call task forces and strike teams, which is a grouping of 5 like-in-kind units under a common leader with common communications.
He says one of the biggest challenges with the Woolsey fire is dealing with California's winds.
We have the Santa Ana winds, we have onshore winds, we have offshore winds, changing winds, so on. And we are, being from Arizona, we're not really familiar with their wind patterns. So for us, that is a major heads up and a safety factor that we pay very close attention to.
His crew works night and day to locate hotspots in the hills and mountains of Southern California. Local resident Beta Farrell says her front and backyards were damaged by the fire.
I mean, it came very close. There's actually almost like a donut of crispiness, like fire, like burnt around our house.
Farrell was lucky. She wasn't home when the Woolsey fire passed through.
We're grateful. We're grateful to these firefighters. We're just grateful we have our home.
Captain DiBenedetto and his crew will be in California for at least a few more days.
Usually these assignments are up to 14 days, and sometimes we can extend as far as 21. We will stay as long as they need us. And if they're done with using us here on the Woolsey and they want us to go to another fire, we'll go to that fire.
The Arizona Department of Forestry and Fire Management has sent 169 Arizona firefighters and 46 engines to California. Most of them, like the crew from the Scottsdale Fire Department, are working to contain the Woolsey fire. In Los Angeles, Emily Forres, Cronkite News.
The Woolsey fire has destroyed an estimated 504 structures and is about 52% contained.
Arizona elections officials say they are almost done counting outstanding ballots from the midterm election. Of the nearly 2.3 million votes cast, there were about 124,000 ballots left to count, most of them from Maricopa and Pima counties. The only race yet to be called is Secretary of State, in which Democrat Katie Hobbs holds a 6,000 vote lead over Republican Steve Gaynor. You can track our continuing election coverage on cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
In the past 3 years, funding for Alzheimer's research has reached an all-time high.
But coming up on Cronkite News, we're taking a look at why it still may not be enough.
And parents nationwide worry about young athletes getting concussions. The steps towards risk prevention next.
As journalists at Cronkite News, we report on stories that matter to you by focusing on the local impact. We dig deeper and work tirelessly to keep you informed.
Live in Wickerburg.
Live in Los Angeles.
In Cleveland. In Washington. In Louisville.
From Jerusalem.
Live in Philadelphia. From around the world to right here in Phoenix.
At Cronkite News, we report the facts and stick to the truth.
As the number of people diagnosed with Alzheimer's increases, there's concern over the lack of progress in research into prevention and treatment. Reporter Jimmy Jackson spoke with Arizona leaders in this research area to see what impact a lack of funding is having.
In recent years, Alzheimer's research funding from the federal government has increased to an all-time high, more than doubling between 2015 and 2018. But to prevent a disease that still has no survivors, it still may not be enough. According to James Fitzpatrick, the Director of Programs and Advocacy at the Alzheimer's Association, Alzheimer's disease is the least funded chronic disease in the United States. He says that lobbying Congress to continue to increase funding is critical.
Cancers and HIV and these other diseases in the top 5 in our country are still receiving way more than what we are, and it's not enough.
The National Institutes of Health is the federal research agency that allocates funding for diseases, and Alzheimer's now receives an estimated $1.9 billion, which is an increase of $1.2 billion over the last 4 years. Paul Coleman, a research professor at Arizona State's Biodesign Institute, says another issue is that the fight for grant money is very competitive.
In the recent past, the money has run out only when they get through the top 5 to 7% of the proposals. That means then that the other 93 to 95% of the work that people have proposed never gets funded, doesn't get done. So certainly this has been an impediment to progress.
Most research in recent years has focused on plaques and tangles, which are proteins that build inside and in between neurons in the brain in areas that affect memory. However, Coleman says this research is limited because it does not reveal enough about the causes of Alzheimer's that may begin earlier in the brain's development.
It's my opinion that the devotion of a number of people to looking at plaques and tangles has interfered with real progress in understanding what's going on with Alzheimer's disease.
Eric Ryman, the executive director of the Banner Alzheimer's Institute, says that he would like to see funding reach $3 billion, and with that, researchers will be able to continue current research while also exploring other areas.
We have the opportunity to take the more traditional findings, put them to the test in more powerful ways, and find out one way or the other, are they on the right track, or should we pursue other mechanisms? At the very same time, we need to be thinking about novel mechanisms and risk factors, new targets at which to aim treatments.
Ryman says that Arizona has an advantage because it is a major research hub for Alzheimer's. In Phoenix, Jimmy Jackson, Cronkite News.
In 3 decades, Alzheimer's is expected to cost $288 billion to the U.S., according to the Alzheimer's Association. If there's not significant progress on treatments or a cure, experts say the cost could bankrupt the country's healthcare system.
The director of the Mayo Sports Clinic here in Arizona traveled to the nation's capital to talk about keeping young athletes safer from concussions. Cronkite News Washington reporter Ian Solomon has the details.
Are you worried about your child being injured playing sports? If so, you join 87% of parents nationwide. But a new partnership between U.S. Youth Soccer, the Mayo Clinic, Injure Free, and the U.S. Center for Safe Sport is aiming to lessen those worries.
Say that our system is designed so that if an injury or a suspected injury occurs, the parents or guardians of that child will be connected with licensed regional medical professionals.
The system U.S. Youth Soccer CEO Chris Moore is referencing is the new Athlete Incident Management System, which is being implemented nationwide. AIM is not only meant to provide resources to coaches and parents, but also collect injury-related information, something that isn't being adequately done now.
Majority of concussions actually don't make it into those reporting processes that are there, which is another nice thing about this collaboration. Hopefully we can get a little more information on concussion, even through things that doesn't make it all the way to CDC information.
Concussions are the biggest source of worry for many parents. President and CEO of Injure Free and former college football player Charlie Wound says there isn't enough oversight to ensure the safety of athletes.
A game where I remember watching film and there was about 3 or 4 plays I could not remember after getting hit in the head, but certainly nobody else stepped in to pull me off the field.
But Wethy says there are many other health risks that need to be addressed, and AIM will deal with those too.
You know, hydration, when it's very hot, that's a concern too, and that's a part that we don't talk about so much necessarily in the media, but is a really concern, especially for those of us in Arizona where the heat-related illness is a significant concern.
The hope is that the AIM system will put an end to the lack of research and education of these injuries that put young athletes in danger.
Every day that we let this go further, there's another child that's being put at risk in somewhere.
In Washington, Ian Solomon, Cronkite News.
Arizona teachers have been in the spotlight in the last year.
Coming up on Cronkite News, a new documentary that showcases educators' lives here in our state. Next.
Beautiful temperatures across the state today. I'll have more about your forecast after the break.
I'm Judy Woodruff, anchor and managing editor of the PBS NewsHour. The journalists of tomorrow face a fast-changing media landscape, but quality news remains vitally important to our communities, our country, and our world. At ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication, students learn solid, reliable reporting, holding the powerful accountable, and rebuilding the public's trust. The Cronkite School and Arizona PBS, preparing the next generation for a stronger future of journalism.
Teaching in Arizona is not just what people do for a living, it is also the name of a new documentary. Reporter Tanaya Williamson has the full story.
Arizona teachers received the attention of millions this year as they marched during the Red for Ed movement. The documentary Teaching in Arizona covered that, plus a little more about the profession and what it means in our state.
We chose to create this documentary in order to really show people what it's like to be a teacher today, and to dispel the myths that teaching is a part-time job and that it in fact is a profession that requires a lot of preparation, professional development, mentoring, and training to be highly effective.
Those of us who are not teachers, hopefully what this documentary will share is to kind of be a wake-up call, to help each and every one of us to say, you know what, we need to do more to help our teachers.
So that is 24/7. I'm just a teacher all the time. There are times that I just have nothing left in me. I just kind of I can't give anymore. There's no more I can give.
I've been teaching for 12 years, so it's been amazing. I love teaching. It is really, really hard, but it's been amazing.
Teachers like Nathaniel Rios were featured in the film and opened up about the financial difficulties that he and his wife face.
I have a second job. I teach during the day, and then this Saturday I'll work to 9, 10 o'clock in an ice cream shop, and next Friday I'll work to 11:30, probably 12, and close the ice cream shop down.
Rios says that although salary is a factor, that there is much more to be addressed.
There's more conversation to be had that is complex, and teachers would like to have a seat at the table because we feel like we, being on the front lines, know what that looks like.
In Tempe, Tanaya Williamson, Cronkite News.
Teaching in Arizona is being screened across the valley. The next screening will take place on November 29th.
John, it's definitely starting to cool down here in the valley.
You know, it really has cooled down. It seems like the last couple of days I've needed a jacket everywhere I go. Let's check in with Micah Bledsoe in the Weather Center to see if we could expect cool temperatures this weekend. Micah?
We can expect cool temperatures all this weekend. Right now we're experiencing beautiful temps. 75 in Phoenix. If you look in California, 62 in San Francisco, and they have a varying amount of temperatures across the state as well. Over the next 8 hours, we'll obviously drop down a little bit. It'll be freezing cold by tonight. So if you plan on being out later, make sure you grab a jacket. Tomorrow, our high temperatures in Phoenix, 76 degrees. It's going to be a nice, cool day. We're going to have ranging temperatures in the 50s up north and way west in the 70s, mid-70s. Our low temperatures for tomorrow as well will show that Phoenix will have 48 degrees, so you'll definitely want to grab another cool jacket to stay warm. And then up north, it'll be a little bit cooler. It'll be nearly 40 degrees up north. Our 7-day forecast will show that it is going to be cooling off this weekend. We'll be a little bit warmer on Friday, 76 tomorrow, but by Thursday, 72, we'll experience some lows in the 40s and in the 50s. In the Cronkite Weather Center, Micah Bledsoe.
There's a new sport on the scene at Grand Canyon University.
Coming up on Cronkite News, we're taking a look at the rise of esports.
If you're looking for one show that tells you what happened that day in the world of business, it's NBR.
We saw a classic shipwreck.
Nordstrom's opening stores.
Triple-digit gains.
Crude climbs.
We're there to help our audience find new investment ideas.
The market still has room to go up.
Nightly Business Report is the longest-running business television program in history.
Weeknights at 10:30 on Arizona PBS.
I'm Matt Berry, ESPN Sports Center anchor and graduate of ASU's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication. With its bachelor's and master's degrees in sports journalism, the Cronkite School is preparing the next generation of sports journalists to tell stories that matter, stories that excite, inspire, and inform. Cronkite immerses students in covering sports at all levels in one of the country's top sports markets. It's this hands-on experience under the guidance of award-winning sports media veterans that shape the top journalists of tomorrow.
For the past 8 months, we've been delighted to bring my show Amanpour to PBS. Now, I am thrilled with our new show Amanpour and Company. I'm really looking forward to working with our incredibly talented contributors. Join us for Amanpour and Company.
Weeknights at midnight on Arizona PBS.
Grand Canyon University's esports program is on the rise. Their varsity Overwatch team made it to the Sweet 16 last year, and the school just opened a brand new esports arena. Our own Ethan Gaines takes a look at what GCU is doing to make some noise in the college esports scene.
Justin Johns is the president of the fastest growing club at Grand Canyon University, the esports team. The senior computer science major is also the captain of the varsity Overwatch squad, and he's seen the esports program grow into the second largest club on campus in just a few years.
We were all just a couple of guys on laptops in a room. We didn't have any support from the university other than just giving general club funds and a space to be. Since then, we moved up from a 15 computer arena to now a 36 computer arena. It shows that they want to keep their standards high though, and we've been competing pretty top tier since.
College esports is on the rise all across the country, with over 100 schools supporting varsity teams, according to the National Association of Collegiate Esports. In an effort to compete on the national stage, GCU just opened its brand new esports arena in August, and the school invested tens of thousands of dollars into new equipment, according to GCU esports coordinator Albert Lee.
GCU provides so much support for esports teams as well as the esports community. In just my short time here, they've provided not just the esports arena with 36 high-end computers and gaming consoles, but the varsity and junior varsity teams now have a bigger and better place to practice as well as play competitively against other colleges.
John said that GCU may be adding scholarships for esports as soon as next year in an effort to continue growing the program. In Phoenix, Ethan Gaines.
We're ready.
Cronkite News.
The esports team has already seen some success this season with their varsity Hearthstone squad qualifying for the TESPA Collegiate Playoffs.
Cronkite News is proud to be the news division of Arizona PBS. Here's what's coming up on Arizona Horizon and PBS NewsHour.
Thursday on Arizona Horizon, America Recycles Day is coming up. We'll hear from an official who says it's a crisis in recycling. And we'll talk to some artists performing Leonard Bernstein's Mass, a theater piece for singers, players, and dancers.
I'm Judy Woodruff. On the next NewsHour, on the fire line, we report from California on the fight to contain the flames. That's Thursday on the PBS NewsHour.
That's it for Cronkite News tonight. Thank you for joining us.
For top Arizona stories anytime, go to cronkitenews.azpbs.org.
Coming up on Arizona Collectibles.
I turned a little bit red, didn't I? It is one of the best I've ever seen.
I cannot. This is actually unbelievable.
Tonight at 7:30 on Arizona PBS.
Phryne Fisher is a detective.
Things could get interesting around here.
Who isn't afraid to live a little.
I hope you're not concealing a dangerous weapon under that skirt.
I'm concealing a lot of things.
The irresistible